The world of sports journalism has lost one of its most respected, articulate, and deeply human voices. Richard Scolyer, the celebrated Australian cricket commentator and journalist who brought clarity, warmth, and insight to some of the most defining moments in cricket history, has passed away at the age of 59. His death came as a shock to fans around the world, many of whom had grown up listening to his radio broadcasts, reading his columns, and finding comfort in the way his words could make even the most tense match feel like a story being told by a trusted friend. There was no long goodbye, no final interview, and no dramatic farewell tour. Just the quiet, devastating realization that the man who gave cricket its most memorable narration is no longer with us. Richard Scolyer was born in 1966 in Australia, and from the very beginning, he was drawn to the world of storytelling, to the craft of journalism, and to the kind of connection that comes from speaking directly to an audience. He didn't start out as a national voice. He didn't become an overnight sensation. He started as a young reporter with a notebook, a passion for the game, and a voice that could make even the most ordinary moments feel like they were speaking directly to your soul. He was not the kind of journalist who sought the spotlight. He was not the kind of journalist who wanted to be famous. He was the kind of journalist who believed that cricket was a way to connect, to heal, and to make people feel less alone. That was who he was, and that was why he became the voice of Australian cricket. His breakthrough came in the 1990s, when he began working for the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, reporting on cricket matches, writing columns, and becoming one of the most trusted voices in the sport. He quickly established himself as one of the most talented and consistent commentators in the industry, covering test matches, World Cups, and the kind of moments that define a generation. He was known for his calm demeanor, his precision in language, and his ability to stay neutral even when the pressure was at its highest. He was not the kind of commentator who needed to shout to be heard. He didn't need to make grand gestures to be remembered. He just needed to be present, to be real, and to be honest in the way that only a true journalist can be. That was why he became a legend, and that was why fans fell in love with him. What made Richard Scolyer so special was not just his voice, but the way he approached every broadcast with the same kind of respect and dedication. He was not the kind of journalist who would take a story just because it was there. He was the kind of journalist who would take a story because it challenged him, because it made him think, and because it gave him the opportunity to explore something new. He was the kind of journalist who would stay on the field even after the match was finished, who would talk to players, who would ask questions, and who would learn from everyone around him. That kind of humility, that kind of curiosity is rare in the world of sports media, and it is the kind of humility that earns respect not just from colleagues, but from the people who listen to his work. Over the course of his career, Richard Scolyer covered some of the most iconic moments in cricket history. He was there when Australia won the World Cup, when Steve Waugh delivered his legendary speeches, when Ricky Ponting led the team to dominance, and when the sport faced its darkest challenges. He was the voice that guided fans through the tension of a close match, through the joy of a victory, and through the heartbreak of a loss. He was the voice that made cricket feel real, that made competition feel important, and that made the idea of sport feel possible. That's the kind of impact he had on his fans, and that's the kind of legacy that can't be taken away by death, no matter how painful it may be. The exact cause of Richard Scolyer's death has not been publicly disclosed, and for now, that detail remains respectfully private, shielded by his family and the people closest to him. What is clear, however, is the impact of his passing. The cricket world has been flooded with tributes from fellow journalists, from players, from broadcasters, and from people who grew up listening to his broadcasts and finding comfort in his words. Some have shared stories of the first time they heard him commentate on a match. Others have talked about the way his voice made them feel when they were going through the hardest times of their lives, and still others have simply written that his narration was the soundtrack to their lives. Those stories are not just about cricket. They're about the way Richard Scolyer made people feel, the way he made them believe in themselves, and the way he made them feel less alone. For fans, Richard Scolyer's legacy will live on in the broadcasts that defined a generation, in the matches that still bring people